Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My name is Malcolm Price. I am 36 years old, and my hands were shaking as I sat at the kitchen table, but my mind had never felt clearer. I needed to write it all down while the details were still sharp, before the shock and anger blurred them into something softer that might start making excuses for what happened. Monday morning had started like any ordinary day in what I thought was a solid, ordinary marriage. My wife, Alicia, who is 34 years old, left for work wearing her navy blazer, her favorite gold studs, and that perfume she always said made her feel put together. She kissed me goodbye at the door, told me she would pick up groceries on the way home, and reminded me to take the trash out because the truck came early on Tuesdays. 6 years of marriage, I thought. Quiet, stable routine. We had been talking about starting a family in the spring. I watched her drive away, completely unaware that this was the last normal moment of our marriage. That evening, I started to feel uneasy when the clock passed 6:30 p.m. Alicia usually texted if she was running late, even if it was just a short message to say traffic was bad or her boss had thrown a last-minute task at her. At 7 p.m., I called her phone. It went straight to voicemail. No ring, no delay, just the automated voice telling me to leave a message. That was not normal. I tried again. Same result. I texted, "Hey, everything okay?" No response. I told myself she might have forgotten her charger, or her phone had died. I heated up some leftovers, but the food tasted like cardboard. By 8:30 p.m., I called her phone 5 times. I called her office. The receptionist told me Alicia had left work at 5:30 p.m. sharp. That was when the unease tipped into something darker. I called Alicia's best friend, Maya, then caught myself, because Alicia's best friend in this version needed a different name. In my life, her best friend was named Taryn. I called Taryn, who picked up sounding half asleep. I asked if she had heard from Alicia. She had not. I called Alicia's older sister, Sierra, who lived across town. Sierra had not heard from her either, and immediately started sounding worried. Then I called Alicia's mother, Gloria. As soon as I asked if she had spoken to Alicia, her voice grew tight with fear. "What do you mean you cannot reach her?" Gloria asked. "She did not call you? She did not come home?" Within 10 minutes, Gloria was talking about calling hospitals. I paced the living room while my phone sat silent on the coffee table, screen dark, refusing to light up with Alicia's name. I did not sleep that night. I kept hearing phantom sounds in the driveway, thinking it was her car. I checked the tracking app from our phone provider, the one we had both agreed to years ago for safety when we traveled. Her phone was switched off. Every horror scenario played in my mind. Car accident, kidnapping, a mugging gone wrong. I walked from room to room, staring at her things, the mug on the counter, the sweater on the back of the chair, and tried to imagine a world where she did not walk back through the door. By sunrise on Tuesday, my eyes were burning and my chest felt hollow. Tuesday morning, I went to the police station and filed a missing person report. The officer at the front desk handed me a clipboard and asked for Alicia's full name, date of birth, physical description, what she had been wearing when she left, any medical conditions, whether she had ever disappeared before. "Never," I said. "Not once. She is dependable. She follows routines." They took it seriously at first. A married woman, no history of vanishing. Phone suddenly off. That flagged concern. Another officer came out and talked to me. He asked for a recent photo, so I pulled up one from our anniversary dinner on my phone. He took notes while I described Alicia's car, her job, our address, her family. They told me they could ping her phone and check for any activity on her bank cards. When the officer returned from the back room, his expression had changed. The alert focus I had seen before had faded into something like reluctance, maybe even pity mixed with annoyance. He sat down across from me and folded his hands. "Mr. Price," he said, "we pinged your wife's phone. Last active signal was from a hotel downtown yesterday evening, before the phone turned off." "A hotel." My mind snagged on the word. "Which hotel?" I asked. He glanced at his screen and then back at me. "We are still reviewing the details and coordinating with staff. Sometimes adults just need space. She is not a minor. It might be best to give it 48 hours before we escalate." The way he said adults need space told me everything. They had seen something in the system. Maybe you're checking in with her identification, something that made them decide she was not in danger. They were already treating this as a personal matter. I walked out of the station in a daze, the sun hitting my face too brightly. A hotel downtown. Space. 48 hours. Those words turned in my head like rocks in a dryer. Alicia had disappeared without telling me, turned off her phone, and checked into a hotel. Every innocent explanation I tried to construct collapsed under its own weight. If she needed space, she could have said so. If she needed a night alone, she could have told someone, anyone. Her mother was calling hospitals. Her sister was blowing up my phone. She had told none of us anything. Tuesday afternoon, after staring at the walls for too long, I called a private investigator. A co-worker of mine, Jared, had gone through a messy divorce a few years back and had once mentioned that a private investigator had been worth every dollar. I had saved the contact out of habit, never thinking I might actually use it. The investigator's name was Tyrone Bennett. When he answered, his voice was calm and direct. I told him my wife had disappeared, that the police hinted she was at a hotel, but were clearly not going to do much beyond that. I did not bother hiding the fear in my voice. Most of these cases, Tyrone said quietly, turn out to be what you are afraid they are. I am sorry. I will start immediately. I will update you within 24 hours. I did not like hearing that, but I appreciated his honesty. He asked for Alicia's photo, her car model and license plate, her work address, and the city we lived in. I emailed him everything from my phone while sitting in the driveway, because I could not bring myself to go back into the silent house just yet. As soon as I hit send, I had this horrible, guilty feeling, like I was betraying her by agreeing to have her followed. Then I reminded myself that she had already betrayed my trust by vanishing. If she was at a hotel with someone, I needed to know. I needed proof. Feelings could be argued with. Photographs could not. Tuesday night was worse than Monday. On Monday, I had been terrified she might be hurt somewhere. On Tuesday, I was afraid she was perfectly safe and simply did not care enough to tell anyone. That second fear cut deeper. I kept thinking about our last few months together, replaying every minor disagreement, every quiet dinner, every time she had seemed distracted or tired. There was nothing dramatic, no shouting, no threats of leaving. We had spoken about paint colors for the guest room, about maybe visiting New Orleans that fall, about kids, how many, how soon, what we would name them. I thought of Alicia laughing on the couch during one of our movie nights, throwing popcorn at me when I quoted the lines along with the characters. It was almost impossible to reconcile that image with the idea of her in a hotel room with someone else. Wednesday morning, around 9 a.m., Tyrone called. My heart started pounding before I even answered. I found her, he said. She is at the Westfield Hotel downtown, room 814. She checked in Monday evening. She is not alone. I swallowed. Who is she with? There was a brief pause. A man, approximately 32 to 35 years old. He arrived Monday evening. They have stayed both nights. They left the room together twice, once for dinner Tuesday night and once for breakfast this morning. My throat felt tight. Do you have photos? I asked. Yes, he said. Do you want them? Everything, I replied. My voice did not sound like mine. A few minutes later, my email chimed. Tyrone had sent a file containing 23 photographs. I opened it and stared. There was Alicia, sitting across a small restaurant table from a man I had never seen before. She was laughing, leaning forward, her hand resting on his. Another photo showed them walking through the hotel parking lot, fingers intertwined. One had them pressed against each other, clearly kissing. Others showed them entering the elevator together, standing too close in the lobby, walking side by side with the easy intimacy of two people who had done this before. The last photo was time-stamped Wednesday at 2:47 p.m. Alicia and the man in the hotel lobby with rolling luggage, hugging goodbye. I sat back, feeling something inside me quietly crack. I called Tyrone again. How fast can you write up a report? I asked. I can have a full report with time-stamped photographs ready by 5 p.m., he said. Do you want me to keep following her after she leaves the hotel? I stared at the final image of her hugging the man. No, I said. I have what I need. Hanging up, I realized my hands had stopped shaking. The fear had been replaced with something colder, more solid. I forwarded the email to my personal account and then to a printer in my office, because I knew what I needed to do next. I drove straight to a divorce attorney's office downtown. I had called ahead from the car, scheduled an emergency consultation, and walked in 10 minutes early with the photographs already printed in a manila folder. The attorney, a woman named Attorney Michelle Harris, greeted me with a firm handshake and a sympathetic, professional expression. Her office smelled like coffee and paper. Diplomas lined the wall, along with framed newspaper clippings about high-profile cases she had handled. "Tell me what is going on, Mr. Price," she said. I told her everything, starting with Alicia's disappearance on Monday, the police visit, the hotel, the private investigator, the photographs. I slid the folder across the desk. Attorney Harris opened the folder and studied the photographs carefully, page by page. Her face barely changed, but I could see the sharp focus in her eyes. After she finished, she leaned back and folded her arms. "This is very clear evidence of adultery," she said matter-of-factly. "In this state, that matters for division of assets. You own your house." I nodded. "I bought it 2 years before we married. The title is in my name only. I used inheritance money from my grandmother." She nodded approvingly. "Any joint accounts?" "No," I said. "Separate finances." Alicia insisted on that when we got married. She said it felt more modern. For the first time, Attorney Harris actually smiled. "That insistence is going to work in your favor," she said. "We can move quickly. I can have the divorce petition and supporting documents drawn up by the end of the business day. Do you want to move fast?" "As fast as possible," I said. When I got home around 6 p.m., the house felt eerily quiet. The divorce papers arrived in my email inbox a few minutes later. I printed 2 copies, signed my portion, and placed them neatly on the kitchen table. Next to them, I placed the private investigator's report that Tyrone had completed, with all the photographs in order. I put everything into a manila folder, aligning the edges more carefully than necessary. There was something calming about the precision. At 6:47 p.m., I heard Alicia's car pull into the driveway. My heart rate did not increase this time. It just settled into a steady, heavy thud. Alicia walked in like it was any other day. She looked rested, hair smoothed back into a low bun, makeup subtle but carefully done. She set her purse on the counter, kicked off her shoes, and gave me a casual smile. "Hey," she said, as if she had not vanished for 3 days. I was sitting at the kitchen table, hands folded. "Hey," I replied. She walked to the refrigerator, grabbed a bottle of water, and twisted off the cap. "What is for dinner?" she asked. I looked at her. "Where were you?" I asked quietly. She turned around slowly, took a sip of water, and shrugged. "I needed some space," she said. "Space," I repeated. "You needed space for 3 days without telling me, without telling your family, without sending a single text message." Her expression shifted from casual to defensive in an instant. "I'm allowed to have time to myself," Alicia said. "I did not need to report my every movement to you." "I filed a missing person report," I said. "Your mother has been calling hospitals." Alicia rolled her eyes. "That is so dramatic," she said. "I am a grown woman. If you knew I needed time, you should have just respected that." "I did not know you were fine," I replied. "Your phone was turned off." Alicia set the bottle down with a hard thud on the counter. "Look," she said, raising her voice slightly. "I am not doing this. I needed space. I took it. I do not owe you explanations for everything I do." There it was, the sentence that would end our marriage. For a second, time felt like it paused. I stood up slowly. "You are right," I said. Her eyes narrowed in confusion. "What?" she asked. "You are right," I repeated calmly. "You do not owe me explanations." I picked up the manila folder and the divorce papers, walked over to her, and held them out. "And I do not owe you a marriage." Alicia took the folder, frowning. She opened it and stared, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. I watched her face change in rapid succession. Confusion as she saw the first page of the private investigator's report, recognition as she realized what it was, shock as she saw her own face in the photographs, panic as she flipped through them, and finally, terror. The photograph on top was the one of her kissing the man in the hotel parking lot. "This is not—" "Wait," she stammered, flipping faster. "You had someone following me?" "The answers are in the report," I said. Page 3 has the hotel details. Page 5 has the timeline. Pages 6 through 8 have all 23 photographs. Her hand was shaking now. "Malcolm, this is not what it looks like," she said, voice breaking. "Sign the papers," I replied. "I am filing tomorrow morning." Her eyes darted from the papers to my face. "You cannot do that," she said. We need to talk about this. You told me you do not owe me explanations, I said. I agreed. So I'm giving you the same courtesy. Sign the papers or do not. Either way, I am filing in the morning. She dropped the folder and papers on the counter, the pages fanning out. She stepped toward me, reaching for my arm. Baby, please, Alicia said. Let me explain. It was just do not. I cut in, stepping back. Do not insult me more than you already have. It was a mistake, she said, her voice rising, words tumbling out fast. I was confused about us, about everything. I needed to think. You checked into a hotel for 3 days with another man, while your mother thought you were dead in a ditch, I said evenly. That is not confusion. That is a choice. He is not some random man, Alicia blurted. He is. We just reconnected, and I do not care who he is, I said. Sign the papers, or do not. Either way, I am moving forward. You should probably find somewhere else to stay tonight. She blinked, stunned. This is my house too, she said sharply. No, I replied. This is my house. I bought it before we married. Your name is not on the deed. Check it if you want. Her face flushed deep red. You cannot just kick me out, Alicia snapped. I'm not kicking you out, I said quietly. I'm suggesting that you would be more comfortable somewhere else. But if you choose to stay, you will stay in the guest room. We are done. Her eyes filled with tears. Please just listen to me, she whispered. I made a mistake. I regret it. I want to be here with you. I want our marriage. I felt an odd detachment as she spoke, like I was watching the scene happen to someone else. If it meant nothing, you would have done nothing, I said. You spent 3 days doing very much something. I turned and walked toward the stairs. Good night. I locked the bedroom door behind me, even though I doubted she would try to come in. For an hour, I heard her crying downstairs. Long, raw sobs that once would have broken my heart. Now they sounded distant, like a television in another room. After a while, I heard her voice, muffled through the floor, as she spoke on the phone to someone. Then I heard the front door slam. I went to the window and saw her car pulling out of the driveway. A minute later, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text message from Alicia. Please do not do this. I love you. It was stupid. I will do anything. I stared at the screen for a few seconds, then blocked her number. I emailed scanned copies of the signed divorce papers and the private investigator's report to Attorney Harris. Then I took a sleeping pill and finally slipped into a restless, heavy sleep. The next few days were a blur of paperwork and emotional whiplash. Thursday morning, I filed the divorce papers at the courthouse. Attorney Harris accompanied me, calm and efficient. She told me that with the evidence we had, the process should be straightforward. Your wife will likely receive her personal belongings and a modest settlement based on the length of the marriage, she said. The house will almost certainly remain yours since you owned it before the marriage, and your retirement accounts will likely remain separate. Her insistence on separate finances actually supports your position. It will not be painless, but should be clean. Thursday afternoon, I received a sharp knock on my front door. When I opened it, I was handed a thick envelope, a temporary restraining order. Apparently, Alicia had filed for one, claiming that I had become threatening and volatile, and that she feared for her safety after I ambushed her with false accusations and illegal surveillance. The words blurred together as I read. My first reaction was disbelief, then anger, then, unexpectedly, a flicker of relief. If this was the direction she wanted to go, then any remaining hope that she might take responsibility was gone. Friday morning, I had to appear in court for the restraining order hearing. I wore a dark suit and stood beside Attorney Harris in the courtroom, feeling strangely calm. Alicia sat on the other side with her attorney, a man named Attorney Powell, and her sister Sierra. Both Alicia and Sierra were crying quietly, and they looked at me like I was some kind of monster. Alicia would not meet my eyes for long, but when she did, there was a mixture of fear, anger, and something like desperation. Alicia's attorney began by arguing that hiring a private investigator to follow her was obsessive and constituted stalking behavior. He claimed the photos were obtained illegally, violating her right to privacy. He painted me as an unstable, jealous husband who had spiraled when my wife needed time alone. He said Alicia felt emotionally manipulated and unsafe in her own home. As he talked, Alicia dabbed her eyes with a tissue, her shoulders shaking in carefully visible tremors. When it was our turn, Attorney Harris stood and laid out the timeline in clear, precise language. She explained that Alicia had disappeared without warning, that her family and I had believed something terrible might have happened. She pointed out that I went to the police first, and only turned to a private investigator after the police hinted that Alicia was merely taking space. She emphasized that the investigator had only observed Alicia in public spaces and common areas at a hotel, which was legal. My client reacted like any concerned spouse, she said. He did not harass his wife. He tried to find out if she was alive. The judge reviewed the evidence, flipping through the photographs, occasionally glancing at Alicia and then at me. Finally, he set the file down and leaned forward. "Ma'am," he said to Alicia, "your husband hired an investigator after you disappeared for 3 days and turned off your phone. The photographs show you engaged in what appears to be an extramarital affair at a hotel. While I understand this situation is uncomfortable and embarrassing for you, nothing about his actions constitutes harassment or stalking. There is no evidence of threats or violence." Request denied. Alicia burst into loud, messy sobs. Sierra glared at me as if I had just struck her sister. They gathered their things and left without saying a word. I wish that had been the end of the drama, but it was only the beginning. Saturday morning, at 8 a.m., someone pounded on my door hard enough to rattle the frame. I pulled on a t-shirt and opened it to find Alicia's father, Leonard, standing on the porch, his jaw set, his eyes burning. "Open up. We need to talk man to man," he said, pushing past me into the foyer before I could answer. He smelled like aftershave and coffee, and a faint trace of cigarette smoke. "What do you want?" I asked, shutting the door behind him. "What I want," Leonard said, turning to face me, "is for you to stop this nonsense. You are embarrassing my daughter over a misunderstanding." I stared at him, hands at my sides. "A misunderstanding," I repeated. "She checked into a hotel with another man for 3 days. Leonard waved a hand, dismissively. "She was going through something. Women get emotional. You should have been there for her instead of spying on her. She told me you had been distant, wrapped up in your work, not paying attention to her needs." His tone made it clear that he blamed me more than he blamed his daughter. "She told you she does not owe me explanations," I said. "She left, turned off her phone, and let her family think she might be dead. That is not about me working." Leonard stepped closer, almost chest to chest with me. "You got proof she actually cheated?" he demanded. "Did you see them in bed together, or do you just have a few innocent photos?" I pulled my phone from my pocket, opened the digital album Tyrone had sent, and held it up, showing him the photo of Alicia and the man kissing in the hotel parking lot. Leonard barely glanced at it before snorting. "That is nothing," he said. "A kiss. You were throwing away a marriage over a kiss." My patience snapped a little. "It was a 3-day kiss," I said, "at a hotel where they stayed in the same room both nights. You do not know what happened in that room." Leonard pointed a stiff finger at my chest. "You do not know either," he said. "Maybe they just talked. Maybe she slept on the bed and he slept on the couch. You are assuming the worst because you want an excuse to leave." I shook my head, almost laughing. "Your daughter made her choice," I said quietly. "Now I am making mine." Leonard's posture softened slightly. He sighed, and his voice shifted from anger to something closer to pleading. "Son," he said, "she made a mistake. She knows it. She is devastated. Give her another chance. Think about the family we have been building together. She loves you." I thought about Alicia, about her sitting across from another man in that restaurant, laughing, fingers interlocked with his. I thought about Gloria, crying on the phone Monday night, terrified that something terrible had happened to her daughter. "She thought about our family when she checked into that hotel," I said. "She knew exactly what she was doing." Leonard's eyes hardened again. He seemed to realize that he was not going to change my mind. "You think you were so perfect," he said suddenly, his voice rising. "You were probably a terrible husband. You probably drove her to this. She said you had been cold, working all the time, barely talking to her." I almost laughed again, but there was no humor in it. "I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday," I said. "I am home every night by 6. She has known my schedule since we met. If she was unhappy, she could have talked to me. Instead, she booked a room." Leonard shook his head. "You will regret this," he said. "When you are alone and miserable, remember you threw away a good woman." I stepped back and opened the door. "I will remember I divorced a cheater," I said. "Now please leave my house." This is not over, he said, stepping out onto the porch. Yes, I said, it is. I closed the door behind him. For a moment, I leaned my forehead against the wood, feeling the tension buzz behind my eyes. A picture frame had fallen from the wall in the hallway from the force of his earlier pounding. I picked it up, saw it was a photo of Alicia and me at a beach 3 summers ago, and set it face down on a shelf. I did not feel ready to look at that yet. On Sunday, Alicia's mother and sister showed up at my house with 2 rolling suitcases and determined expressions. They did not ring the bell gently. They jabbed it repeatedly. When I opened the door, Sierra announced, "We are here to collect Alicia's belongings." Her voice was clipped, eyes sharp. "Sure," I said. "Make a list of what belongs to her. I will have it ready by next weekend." Sierra frowned. "We are getting it now," she said, trying to push past me. I stepped sideways to block the doorway. "No," I said calmly. "This is my house. You are not walking around unsupervised, taking whatever you want." Gloria's eyes filled with tears immediately. "How can you be so cruel?" she asked. "She is devastated. She has not been eating. She cries herself to sleep every night. She should have thought about that before the Westfield Hotel," I replied. Gloria shook her head. She explained that she ran into an old college boyfriend. Gloria said, "They just caught up. Nothing happened." I stared at her, incredulous. "For 3 days in a hotel room?" I asked. "Yes," Gloria insisted. "They were talking, trying to sort out their lives. You do not know they were in bed." I actually laughed then, a short, humorless sound. "I am not stupid, and neither are you," I said. "Please stop insulting both of us." Sierra's expression turned mean. "You know what?" she snapped. "She told me you were boring in bed anyway. That is probably why she needed something exciting." I nodded slowly. "Cool," I said simply. I hope that excitement was worth half her things in the divorce. Sierra's mouth fell open in disbelief. "You are not getting everything," she said. "She deserves half of this house. The house I bought before we met." I asked. "The house she is not on the title for? Good luck with that." Sierra crossed her arms. "She put work into this house," she said. "She decorated. She made it a home. That counts for something. Picking out throw pillows is not equity," I said. "Sorry." Gloria stepped forward again, voice trembling with anger. "This is financial abuse," she said. "You are trying to leave her with nothing." I shook my head. "She will get what she is legally entitled to," I said. "According to my attorney, that is not much, given the adultery and the separate finances. She has a job. She will land on her feet." Sierra glared at me. "We will see what the judge says," she said. "Yes," I replied. "We will, next month. Now please leave. If you stay, I will have to call the police and report you for trespassing." They left, shouting about lawyers and how I would pay for this. I shut the door and leaned against it again, breathing steadily until the silence settled back over the house. On Monday, I changed all the locks again, just in case Alicia or her family had made copies. I also installed cameras at the front and back doors. I did not feel afraid of physical danger, but I wanted a record of anyone coming and going. That afternoon, I received a text message from an unknown number. "You are making a huge mistake. I love you. Please, can we just talk face to face?" I blocked it. 10 minutes later, another unknown number. "It is me. I got a new phone since you blocked my old one. Please, Malcolm. I messed up. I will do anything. Just talk to me." Blocked. A third number came through. "Stop being childish. We are adults. We can work through this." Blocked again. I forwarded all 3 to my attorney, who told me to keep documenting every attempt at contact. A few days later, Attorney Harris called. Alicia's attorney had filed a counter-petition. They demanded spousal support, half the value of the house, and financial compensation for emotional distress caused by my cruel actions. When I asked if they had any chance of getting what they were asking for, Attorney Harris actually laughed. "They can ask for anything they want on paper," she said. "That does not mean they will receive it. With the evidence we have, the most this will do is drag things out a few extra weeks while we respond. Are you prepared to wait?" "I have time," I said. "I would rather fight this now than be sorry later." People started asking me if I felt guilty. Coworkers who had heard bits and pieces, friends who knew enough to know something had gone wrong, even my parents. "Are you sure you are not being too harsh?" my mother asked one evening over the phone. "Maybe you two could try counseling." "No," I said. She disappeared for 3 days, lied to me and her family, and then told me she does not owe me explanations. She only tried to explain after she was caught. That is who she is. I'm just responding accordingly. My father, Leonard, told me he understood and that I should focus on protecting myself. It was strange hearing my mother urge compassion while my father urged caution, but both came from love. Over the next 3 weeks, Alicia's behavior escalated in strange, uncomfortable ways. The first week, she started appearing in my office parking lot. The first morning I noticed her, I was halfway to the entrance when I saw her car, idling near the far corner of the lot. She was sitting behind the wheel, sunglasses on, staring in my direction. My chest tightened, but I kept walking into the building. The second day, she was there again, in the same spot. By the third day, the security guard approached me in the lobby. "Mr. Price," he said, "is that woman out there bothering you? She's been parked there for hours. She never comes inside. She is my estranged wife," I said quietly. "We are going through a divorce. She is not allowed to contact me directly, but she has not tried to come into the building." The guard nodded. "If she does, let us know," he said. "We will handle it." For the rest of the week, Alicia sat in the parking lot for hours, watching the doors. Sometimes she would follow my car when I went out for lunch, staying 2 or 3 vehicles behind. I would park at a fast food restaurant, and she would park across the street, never getting out. It felt like being under surveillance by someone who claimed I was the one who had been obsessive. It was unsettling in a way I cannot fully describe. I told Attorney Harris about it. She sent a formal letter to Alicia's attorney, asking that Alicia cease any attempts to tail or monitor me. The response was insultingly simple. Alicia had the right to be in public spaces, including streets and parking lots near my job. Without a clear threat or direct interaction, there was little we could do. I told myself that cameras were everywhere and witnesses were around. I tried to ignore her presence, even as the hairs on the back of my neck prickled whenever I saw her car in the rearview mirror. In the second week, the phone calls began, not to me, but to my workplace and my family. Alicia called my boss first. He later told me about it. She said she was concerned about your mental state. He recounted in a meeting with me in Human Resources. She claimed you had been behaving erratically since the separation, and that she was worried about your judgment at work. He said that when he asked who was calling, and she identified herself as my wife, he had replied calmly, "Ma'am, I am aware of your situation. Please direct any concerns through the appropriate legal channels," and then ended the call. She called him 4 more times that day. He stopped answering after the second. When Alicia began calling Human Resources, things became more serious. She told them I had stolen money from her and suggested they should look closely at company finances in case I was embezzling. I was called into a meeting with Human Resources, along with my boss. I brought my attorney. I presented a copy of the divorce filings, the private investigator's report, and a written summary of Alicia's recent behavior. The Human Resources manager, Ms. Ellis, looked exhausted by the time she finished reading. "We are sorry you are going through this," she said. "We see this as part of a contentious divorce, not a legitimate concern about company funds. We will document these calls. If she continues to contact us, we may pursue action for harassment." That seemed to stop Alicia from calling my job, at least. When Alicia realized that my workplace was not going to punish me on her word alone, she turned her attention to my parents. She called my mother first, her voice shaking with manufactured concern. "I need to talk to you about your son," she said. "He is not well. He is imagining things. He thinks I cheated on him, but I did not, and he is having this breakdown. I am really worried about him." My mother, who had never particularly warmed to Alicia but had always been civil, listened for a moment, then said, "If you cheated or did not cheat, that is between you and Malcolm and your lawyers. Do not call my house to talk about his mental state." When Alicia started crying louder and asking my mother to talk sense into him, my mother hung up. Alicia called my father next. He later told me the interaction lasted less than 20 seconds. She started with, "I am really concerned about Malcolm," he said. I said, "You were the one who stepped out of the marriage, right?" She said yes, but she tried to justify it. I told her, "Lose this number," and blocked her. Hearing that gave me a small, quiet satisfaction. Whatever else was happening, my parents believed me. They trusted what they had seen and heard from me and from my attorney, not the story Alicia was trying to spin. In the third week, Alicia's attorney filed an emergency motion in court, claiming I had hidden marital assets and demanding full access to all of my financial records, including accounts I had held before the marriage. The motion claimed that because I could afford a private investigator and a high-powered divorce attorney, I must have funds I was not disclosing. At the hearing, the judge looked bored from the moment he sat down. Alicia's attorney argued that my finances needed to be opened up and suggested that my refusal was suspicious. Attorney Harris responded by presenting bank statements that clearly showed I had used a personal savings account established years before the marriage to pay for both the private investigator and her own retainer. This account has never been joint, she said. It has never been accessible to the respondent. No marital funds were used. There is no evidence of hidden assets, only speculation. The judge turned to Alicia's attorney. Do you have any actual evidence that Mr. Price has hidden money? He asked. Or are we fishing? Alicia's attorney said nothing for a beat too long. That is what I thought, the judge said. Motion denied. Next time, bring evidence, not suspicions. Finally, the divorce hearing itself arrived. I had imagined the day for weeks, but the reality still hit hard. The night before, I barely slept, even though I knew logically that our case was strong. I kept replaying our entire relationship in my mind. The day we met at a friend's barbecue, Alicia laughing at a joke I made. The long phone calls when we first started dating. The weekend trip to Chicago where we got caught in a thunderstorm and ended up soaked and happy in a diner at midnight. The way she had looked walking down the aisle on our wedding day, eyes shining. I wondered when things had shifted inside her. I wondered if there had been a moment I should have noticed but had overlooked. The morning of court, I put on the same dark suit I had worn for the restraining order hearing. In the mirror, I looked older than 36. I met Attorney Harris outside the courtroom. She gave me a reassuring nod. You will be fine, she said. We have the facts. Let them talk. Then we will remind the court of reality. We stepped inside. Alicia was already seated at the opposite table with Attorney Powell. She wore a black dress, minimal makeup, and carried a plain black clutch instead of her usual colorful purse. She looked like she was going to a funeral, and in a way, she was. Her eyes were red, and she dabbed them occasionally with a tissue. Her posture was small, shoulders slightly hunched. Alicia's attorney opened with a performance. Your Honor, he said, my client is devastated. She made one mistake during a difficult time in her marriage. She felt neglected, emotionally abandoned, and she reconnected with an old friend for support. Her husband chose to respond with nuclear retaliation. He hired a stalker to follow her. He is attempting to leave her destitute. He has turned her own family against her. She is not asking to be rewarded for her mistake. She is asking for fairness. His words were smooth, almost rehearsed. Alicia sniffled softly at all the right moments. Objection, Attorney Harris said calmly as soon as he finished. Many of those statements are inaccurate, and counsel knows it. The judge nodded. Sustained, he said. Counselor, stick to facts, please. Alicia's attorney tried again. My client admits she reconnected with an old friend, he said. She needed someone to talk to during a period when she felt neglected in her marriage. They met for coffee. They talked. Yes, she stayed at a hotel to have space to think, but nothing physical occurred. The photographs presented do not show what happened behind closed doors. They are circumstantial and should not be the basis for stripping her of a fair share of marital assets. Attorney Harris stood, picked up the folder of photographs, and approached the bench. Your Honor, she said, these photographs were taken by a licensed private investigator in public spaces. Here, in photograph 12, the respondent and her companion are clearly kissing in the hotel parking lot. Here, in photograph 15, they are entering the hotel room together at 9:47 p.m. on Monday. Photograph 18 shows them leaving the room together at 11:23 a.m. Tuesday morning and returning at 2:15 p.m. Photograph 21 shows them leaving again Wednesday at 7:34 a.m. and returning at 8:52 a.m. 2 nights, 1 room, repeated physical affection. This is not circumstantial. The judge looked through the photographs again, his jaw tightening slightly. He glanced at Alicia, then at me, then at her attorney. Counsel, he said, your client stayed in a hotel room with a man who is not her husband for 2 consecutive nights. There is photographic evidence of them kissing. They are seen leaving and returning to the same room multiple times. What exactly is your argument here? Alicia's attorney looked flustered. The photos do not prove they shared a bed, he said. They could have slept in separate beds. They could have. The judge held up a hand. Two adults checking into one hotel room together for multiple nights after sharing a kiss is not ambiguous, he said. It is very clear. Move on. After that, the focus shifted to the division of assets. Alicia's attorney asked for 50% of the home's equity, despite the fact that I had purchased the house years before the marriage. He requested $3,000 per month in spousal support for 5 years. He argued that Alicia was accustomed to a certain standard of living and that she had contributed to the home by decorating, planning renovations, and supporting me emotionally. He also requested that Alicia be awarded her car, which was titled in both of our names, and half of my retirement account. Attorney Harris countered with a much simpler proposal. We asked that Ms. Price receive her personal belongings, her car, which she will be solely responsible for paying off, and a reasonable amount of temporary spousal support, $500 per month for 2 years, to assist her transition to single living. The house should remain Mr. Price's entirely, as it is a premarital asset purchased with inheritance funds. The retirement accounts are all clearly individualized and should remain separate. There is no basis for treating this as a typical equal division of marital property, given the circumstances. The judge took his time reviewing all the documents. He read the deed to the house, the bank statements showing my inheritance, the records of separate accounts, the employment history for both of us. He asked a few clarifying questions about our incomes. Alicia admitted she worked full-time and made a decent salary, though it was somewhat less than mine. The judge nodded slowly. In cases like this, he said, I consider the length of the marriage, the financial situation of both parties, and any evidence of marital misconduct. In this case, there is clear evidence of adultery by Ms. Price. There is also clear evidence that Mr. Price owned the house before the marriage and kept finances largely separate. Then he delivered his ruling. The house will remain 100% the property of Mr. Price, he said. Ms. Price has 30 days to remove any personal belongings, to be coordinated through counsel. Vehicles will remain with their current primary users. Ms. Price will keep her car and will be responsible for the remaining $8,000 on that loan. Mr. Price will keep his own vehicle. Retirement accounts, having been kept separate and contributed to individually, will remain with each respective party. Spousal support will be set at $750 per month for 18 months. This provides a reasonable period of adjustment, but does not create long-term dependency. Alicia started to cry openly. The judge turned his attention to her. Ma'am, he said, his tone firm but not unkind, you committed adultery and then attempted to portray your husband's legitimate efforts to confirm your safety as abuse. This court does not reward that kind of behavior. You will receive enough support to transition to fully independent living. Be grateful for that and focus on moving forward. Alicia nodded weakly, unable to speak through her tears. Her attorney looked frustrated, but not surprised. I felt a wave of relief wash over me, mixed with a sad, distant sense of finality. Our marriage had been reduced to lines on a legal document and a few sentences from a judge. Outside the courthouse, Alicia's mother was waiting, arms crossed, eyes blazing. As soon as I stepped out, she started yelling across the parking lot. You are an evil man, Gloria shouted. You destroyed our family. You ruined my daughter's life. People turned to stare. I did not respond. I walked to my car, unlocked it, and got in. Her voice faded as I closed the door and started the engine. As I pulled away, I saw Alicia standing near her mother, staring down at the pavement. For a brief second, our eyes met in the rearview mirror. Then she turned away. That night, I received a text message from yet another unknown number. I hope you are happy, it read. You have ruined my life. I have to move back home with my parents because I cannot afford an apartment on my own. Everyone thinks I'm a terrible person. You did this to me. For once, I did respond. You did this to yourself. I wrote back. 3 days at the Westfield Hotel with someone else. Own it. Then I blocked the number. I did not feel triumphant or cruel. I just felt tired. The next 6 weeks were quieter, at least on the surface. The divorce was finalized officially, and I received the paperwork in the mail. Holding that envelope in my hands felt surreal. It had been almost 3 months since Alicia walked through her front door and told me she did not owe me explanations. She had been right about that, in a way. She did not owe me explanations for behavior she had already chosen. I did not owe her a marriage. The court had affirmed what I already knew in my gut. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Alicia had moved out of her parents' house and into a small apartment with a roommate about 30 minutes away. I did not ask for details, but the information reached me anyway when someone at work mentioned seeing her in a grocery store near that area. She looked rough, my coworker DeAndre said quietly. Tired. Thin. I just nodded. She is working, he added. I heard she is trying to get herself together. I shrugged. Good for her, I said, and meant it in a distant, abstract way. But the entitlement did not disappear completely. 2 weeks before I received the final divorce papers, I got a phone call from an unfamiliar number. I answered cautiously. Hello. Malcolm, it is Sierra, my former sister-in-law said. How did you get this number? I asked. That does not matter, she said. I am calling because you need to know something. I am not interested, I replied. You should be, she insisted. She is really struggling. She has lost weight. She cries all the time. She can barely function at work. I think she's depressed. She should see a therapist, I said. She needs closure, Sierra pressed. She needs to talk to you just once, face to face. She cannot move on until you give her that. She got closure in court, I said. The divorce is the closure. Sierra's voice sharpened. You are seriously going to hold this over her forever? She asked. She made one mistake. A 3-day mistake at a hotel with someone else, I replied. That is not a slip. That is a sustained decision. Sierra snorted. People make mistakes when they are unhappy, she said. You should have been a better husband. There was again, somehow, in their eyes, this was my fault. I was a fine husband, I said evenly. She was a terrible wife. Tell her to stop sending family members to guilt-trip me. You are such an, she started, but I hung up before she finished and blocked the number. I did not need to hear the rest. A week later, I ran into Alicia by complete accident. I was at Target on a Saturday afternoon, pushing a cart with detergent and paper towels, thinking about very ordinary things, when I turned down an aisle and nearly collided with her. For a heartbeat, we just stared at each other. She looked smaller somehow, almost fragile, in a simple gray sweatshirt and jeans. Her hair was pulled back into a loose ponytail, and there were dark circles under her eyes. Hi, she said finally, voice barely above a whisper. I nodded. Hello, I replied, and started to push my cart past her. Wait, she said, walking quickly to keep up. Please, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. No, I said. I just want to apologize properly, she said. I never got to. I do not need it. I interrupted. We are done. She looked desperate. Please, she said. I need this to move on. I stopped and turned to face her. You need to apologize so you can move on, I said. So you can feel better about what you did. She opened her mouth, then closed it, eyes filling with tears. She started. Here is the thing, I said. I do not care if you move on. I do not care if you feel guilty forever. You made your choices. You live with them. I have already moved on. Her lips trembled. I still love you, she whispered. I shook my head. You love the hotel room with someone else more, I said. It was not like that, she protested weakly. It was exactly like that, I replied. I have the photographs. 2 nights. Same room. Kissing in the parking lot. I'm not stupid, and neither are you. Stop lying, to me and to yourself. She wiped at her eyes, her voice hoarse. Fine, she said. You want me to say it? Yes, I slept with him. Yes, it was wrong. Yes, I regret it every single day. There. Are you happy now? I considered her for a moment. Indifferent. Actually, I said. That is worse for you, I know. But it is the truth. I do not hate you. I do not love you. I do not think about you unless I am forced to, like right now. She stared at me, the tears spilling over. You are so cold, she whispered. I'm practical, I said. You taught me that. You told me you did not owe me explanations. You were right. I do not owe you forgiveness. We are even. She stood there crying as I walked away, pushing my cart toward the checkout lanes. I did not look back. Life after the divorce settled into a new shape slowly, then all at once. The house felt bigger without Alicia's presence, emptier in a way that echoed in the evenings. But it also felt cleaner, like a room where a window had finally been opened after months of stale air. I repainted the bedroom, covering the soft blue she had chosen with a warm gray that I liked better. I bought new furniture, a different bed frame, new nightstands, a new dresser. I donated a lot of things that reminded me of her. The throw blanket she had insisted we needed, the decorative vases I'd never liked, the wedding photo frames. I kept a small box of personal memories in the attic, more out of acknowledgement of my own history than sentimentality. Work became a stabilizing routine. My boss, Mr. Thompson, kept an eye on me without smothering me. The Human Resources Department never heard from Alicia again. The parking lot felt like just a parking lot again. I started going to the gym after work more regularly, partly to fill the evenings, partly to quiet my mind. I spent more time with my parents. My father took me to a baseball game a couple of hours away one weekend. We sat in the stands with hot dogs and sodas, complaining about the bullpen and the manager's decisions, marveling at a home run that sailed into the upper deck. For the first time in a long time, we went an entire day without mentioning Alicia or the divorce. It felt good. My mother, on the other hand, checked in more directly. "Are you really okay? Or are you just pretending?" She asked me one Sunday when she came over with a pot of gumbo. We ate at the kitchen table, the same table where I had handed Alicia the folder. "I think I am actually okay," I said after a long pause. "Not amazing. Not broken. Just okay." She nodded slowly. "You will have trust issues for a while," she said. "That is normal. Just do not let them harden you so much that you shut out something good if it comes along." I did not promise anything, but I heard her. A few weeks after the divorce was finalized, I met someone new by accident. I was at a bookstore on a quiet Saturday afternoon, wandering through the fiction section with no particular title in mind. A woman around my age reached for the same hardcover I was reaching for. Our fingers brushed. We each pulled back at the same time. "Sorry," she said, with a small smile. "You take it. We can both look at it," I replied, holding it out so we could see the cover together. She laughed. Her name was Lena. We ended up talking for 20 minutes about books, films, and how we both liked wandering bookstores just to calm down. At the register, we happened to end up in the same line. As we stepped out into the parking lot, she hesitated. "This might be forward," Lena said, "but would you like to get coffee sometime?" I hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded. "Sure," I said. At the coffee shop a few days later, I told her early on that I had recently finalized a divorce after my wife cheated. I did not go into every detail, but I did not sugarcoat it either. Lena listened, stirred her drink, and said, "Thank you for telling me. We can take things slow. No pressure." That honesty felt like fresh air. We started seeing each other casually. Movies, dinners, long walks around the park. She did not push for anything serious. Sometimes, when she texted late and did not respond for a few hours, I felt a familiar twist of anxiety in my chest. A small voice whispered, "What if it is happening again?" I tried to recognize that voice, acknowledge it, and then remind myself that Lena was not Alicia. When Lena did respond, she often said she had been grading papers or on a call, and she seemed genuinely unaware of my internal storms. I never told her how close I sometimes came to panicking over a delayed message. I just worked on it quietly, reminding myself that I could not let one terrible person ruin every possibility that came after. Looking back, I realized a few things. When Alicia told me, "I do not owe you explanations," she meant it. She was telling me who she was, how she viewed commitment. She believed she had the right to disappear, to lie by omission, to demand understanding without giving any accountability in return. She believed that if she felt unhappy, she was entitled to seek comfort wherever she wanted, and that I should be blamed for painting her into that corner. I had spent years believing we were partners, only to discover I was the only one operating under that assumption. I also realized that separate finances had been the smartest decision we had made, even though at the time, I had thought it might create distance. Instead, it had protected me. It made the divorce cleaner. There were no joint credit cards to untangle, no shared bank accounts to freeze, no arguments about who had spent what on which purchase. My house, my retirement accounts, my savings, those remained largely intact. Her insistence on independence in that area had saved me from being dragged into a much messier financial war. Most importantly, hiring Tyrone, the private investigator, had been worth every dollar. Without those photographs and that detailed report, Alicia would still be lying. She would still be insisting that nothing physical had happened, that the hotel stay was just talking, that I was overreacting. She would still be trying to turn friends and family against me with half-truths and outright fabrications. Tyrone gave me proof. Proof gave me leverage. Leverage gave me a clean break. When someone is willing to look you in the eye and deny what you already know, you need something solid to hold on to. The divorce is final. The house is mine. My life is mine again. Alicia wanted space and no explanations. She got permanent space and every explanation she never wanted to hear from a judge. I'm not grateful for what she did, but I am grateful it ended quickly once the truth came out. There is no dramatic twist, no last-minute reconciliation, no grand speech of forgiveness. There is just reality. She chose 3 days at the Westfield Hotel with another man over the life we had built. I chose to believe what she showed me and to act accordingly. That is enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.